speaking of punches that hurt, man, we gonna get into something a little bit more fun, but it's gonna be just as hard hitting, and that is connect or whiff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so first connect or whiff. All right, so Floyd's always he's active on IG, he's active on all social media platforms because he's a brand, and so people follow him. And he sent out a post celebrating Mark Breland and his knowledge of boxing, and really comparing him, saying he's better than most trainers out there. Connect or whiff? That was a shot at the Bronze Bomber. Go ahead, JD. I'll let you take it first.
You already know that's a connect. That was most definitely a shot at the Bronze Bomber and his team, man. Because we all know that Floyd, his whole career, has lived by the whole mantra of hit and not get hit. And at the end of the day, Floyd is one of those fighters. When we watch what transpired in Wilder Fury 3, he's one of those fighters who would never subscribe to the idea of just going out on your shield like that. He's one of those fighters that would never ever want to take that kind of
He subscribes
punishment.
to never being in that position.
Exactly. Yeah, he subscribes to never being in that position. And so naturally, that Floyd looked at that. And while a lot of people, including ourselves, we love the fight, it was a great fight. He looks at it from the lens of the punishment that Wilder took. And he's like, bro, you really sat there and let yourself get hit and hurt like that? Nah, I can't deal with that. So, of course, that was a sub at Deontay and his team, trying to prop up Mark Breland. But shout out to Mark Breland still, though, man.
Shout out to
Good
Mark
dude, but it was a shot, most definitely.
One of the greatest amateur fighters American amateur fighters we had, and a great fighter in his own right as a pro. What you got on the Q connector with?
I did all that, man. It was a shot, and it wasn't genuine. It wasn't about bigging up Mark Breland, because you could have been bigged up Mark Breland. You had to wait till after, you know what I'm saying? It was a dig at Malik Scott, you know what I'm saying? Also, which he fired back on. If y'all heard what he said. You know what I mean? He said, Floyd, people, humans are just humans, you know what I'm saying? But he said the interesting thing is Mark Breland don't like him, and he said it publicly. He said Floyd ain't nothing but a big loud mouth that would never have made it in his era. So you take with that what you will. But
pew pew
pew pew pew. Hold up, wait a minute. That was a chopper. That's what it is, though, man. I just feel like it was, and also because one thing about it, that fight has been talked about and raved about and called one of the greatest heavyweight bouts, entertaining fights.
Right.
And it's been a lot good said about that fight, So anytime it's a whole lot of energy, you know what I'm saying? Floyd will attach himself, is my opinion. He will attach himself to the energy one way or another, whether it's Canelo, whoever it is, you know what I'm saying? That's because Floyd has been at the top for so long. I think he struggles with not being in that space. So that's just my take on it. You know what I mean?
But we got two connects. Right. We got two connects. All right. So we'll go ahead and make it unanimous. It was a shot of Wilder. Right? Let's keep it real. All right. So next connector with Clarissa Shields fighting in the UK is a great move. Connector with. Go ahead, Q.
I think it's a connect, man. I like it. It gives her more exposure. I think she just signed a deal with Matchbox. Connect. It's a connect. I don't want her fighting Savannah Marshall in UK though.
Right.
I know that's what they're propping up.
Hey, bro, I'm glad you just said that, brother.
What you got,
because
JD?
I'm gonna say that for this fight, it's a connect, because I don't think in any way, shape, or form they're gonna mess up the bag, because this is all a plot to have the Savannah Marshall versus Clarissa Shields fight go down. So I don't think without a doubt that she has to worry about losing going across the pond in this fight. Now, when it gets to the Savannah Marshall fight,
we need that state
side. It better not be close. It better not be close. But so for this one, man, I'm gonna say it's a connect.
All right, most definitely. So speaking of fights that possibly could get made and moves that could be made, T was supposed to fight in Australia, and now it's New York, it's Miami. This fight was, matter of fact, this fight was supposed to be around the corner from my house, but Trilla was like, we ain't got no space. So But anyway, we speaking of Tio and fights that's supposed to be made, we saw him and Devin Haney get into a shouting match. Now I'm gonna give it a connector with, but I'm gonna preface it and muddy the waters and say I think the Haneys are full of shit. But let me get into let me go ahead and get a connector with. Connector with Haney and Lopez, Teofimo, that is, will fight in 2022. Go ahead, Q.
I'm gonna say connected just because I hope it happened, but that's all. I don't have anything.
What you got
else.
on? What you got on, JD?
Man, that's a big old whiff, bruh. That's a big old whiff. I do not think in any way, shape, or form, man. And during that spat, one thing I love about T.O. is T.O. sat there, he looked at Eddie Hearn. He looked at Eddie Hearn in the face, looked him dead in his eyes. And he was like, you don't believe in that, Eddie. You don't believe in him. And you know it. And at the end of the day, Eddie sat there, and that's good promoter, but you can see it in Eddie's face that he knows that T.O. would give Devin that work. He knows business. And so at the end of the day, I don't think it'll happen because Devin Haney has to be moved along properly by Eddie Hearn. They have to navigate this thing correctly. So they're still very young. It should happen, but because they're so young, I don't think it happens. There's too many other names that can keep bouncing around and building it up for another year or two. So it's a whiff for me.
I'm going to tell you something, and I'll just chime in on this one. I think it's a whiff too. You got to respect Bill Haney, and that's the father's name, right, Bill?
Yeah.
All right. You got to respect Big Bill, man. He's a master promoter, right? I think the writings are on the wall. I think everybody knows that Tio's going to 140. So why not put chum in the water, right? Because Tio's going to 140. You guys are staying at 135. Y'all ass better stay at 135, especially the way he reacted to those punches from Linares. Even though Linares is a decent puncher, I'm just saying I don't think Haney moving up to 140 right now after his chin being tested in that way, even though he put on a hell of a performance, right? It was a great performance by Haney. It was a great performance. But there were some questions asked, right? And he responded, but it leads to more questions about his chin and if he's fighting bigger punchers. Because up until that point, we can probably say to a man like Linares is probably the best fighter he's faced so far, right? I mean, he did beat Gamboa,
most
right?
definitely.
And Gamboa in a bit
no
of
doubt, Linares is the best fighter.
Yeah. So, but we wouldn't say, Linares is probably top 10, but he's definitely on the back end of that top 10 when it comes to lightweights. So looking at it, you're like, okay, well, Linares did that, right? And Linares put Lomachenko down, right? And so, but we also saw that the fact that Lomachenko was fighting at 135, and there were some pretty tough questions being asked by one Teofimo Lopez.
Mm-hmm.
And Lomo didn't pass that test. So I think Bill Haney's a master promoter. I think they know this TO fight's not about to happen. And so what they did was promotion for both fighters, actually. So if you're in the TO camp, you're saying, oh man, TO won, TO eat him up. Or you're saying, oh, you see, Devin Haney wanting to fight TO running, he about to go to 140. So I think it's master promoting. I love it, but I tend to agree with JD. It's a whiff. We won't see it. We should see it. We might see it at 140, and hopefully both fighters can keep their careers on track. So maybe we can see this 140-pound matchup, and at some point, maybe we can see Devin Haney versus Tank, Tank versus Tio. We can see all these guys getting in the ring because it seems like Loma's going to stay at 135, so we won't see them as those guys age and put on more weight. Loma unnaturally, be at 135 and fade off into the sunset, as we're about to. Because that's our time.
That's our time.
And this is Boxing Vibes, man. And hopefully y'all love us.
Like we love y'all.
We love y'all. And that's our time, fellas. Take us out.
And we out. Y'all already know. Stream us
1,000.
everywhere, every platform. Apple, Spotify, YouTube.
Smash the like button. Send it to
Google,
a friend. Tell a friend. Tell a friend.
All that kind of stuff, man.
It's almost Thanksgiving. Can I do it? You name it.
You name it. Hey, rings. Hey, man, but we out. We gonna holler at y'all.
All right, we out.